In the heart of a bustling kingdom, there lived a young prince named Adewale. He was admired by all for his good looks, intelligence, and strength. Yet despite his many virtues, Adewale had one great flaw: pride. He believed that because of his royal blood, he was superior to others, and he looked down upon everyone, from his servants to his fellow nobles. The people of the kingdom tolerated his arrogance, for he was the heir to the throne, and no one dared to challenge him. But as time went on, Prince Adewale became more and more isolated, for his pride had driven away the very people who once admired him. One day news spread throughout the kingdom that the king, Adewale's father, was ill and near death. It was clear that the time had come for Adewale to ascend to the throne. The people were uncertain. Would the young prince be able to rule with wisdom, or would his arrogance bring ruin to the kingdom? The king, on his deathbed, called for his son to come to him. "Adewale," he said weakly, "I have seen your strength and your intelligence, but I have also seen your pride. Pride can be a great force, but it can also destroy you. Remember, a true king rules not with force, but with kindness, humility, and wisdom." Adewale, however, was too proud to listen to his father's advice. He believed that he knew best and that his father's words were just the ramblings of an old man. He did not know the price that pride would demand. After his father's death, Adewale was crowned king. He immediately began ruling with an iron fist, ignoring the counsel of his advisors and disregarding the needs of his people. He raised taxes to build grand palaces and commissioned lavish celebrations in his honor. He surrounded himself with sycophants who flattered him, feeding his ego even further. The more he was praised, the more arrogant he became. The kingdom, once prosperous and peaceful, began to suffer. Farmers struggled to feed their families due to the high taxes, and traders found it harder to sell their goods because of the king's disregard for fair trade. The people were growing discontented, but they feared to speak out against their ruler. One day a beggar appeared at the gates of the royal palace. He was dirty, dressed in rags, and holding a simple wooden staff. The guards stopped him and mocked him, but the beggar insisted on speaking to the king. "Your Majesty," the beggar said, when he was finally granted an audience, "I have come to offer you a gift, one that you cannot buy with all your riches." The king, growing impatient, sneered at the beggar. "And what gift could you possibly offer a king like me? I have everything I need." The beggar smiled and with great humility spoke again. "The gift I offer is wisdom. I have walked this land for many years, and I have seen the damage that pride can do. It is a fire that burns its bearer, leaving nothing but ashes. You have everything, Your Majesty, but you are about to lose it all." Adewale laughed at the beggar's words. "I don't need the advice of a lowly beggar. You are beneath me." The beggar bowed his head and said, "That is the price of pride, Your Majesty." Soon after the beggar's visit, the kingdom began to crumble. The crops failed due to drought, and the royal treasury ran dry as the people could no longer pay their taxes. Disease spread among the poor, and the once thriving cities became ghost towns. The people who had once revered their king began to turn against him. As the kingdom's problems grew, the nobles who had once flattered Adewale now began to abandon him, seeing that his pride had led the kingdom to ruin. Alone in his grand palace, the king finally realized the truth of the beggar's words. His pride had isolated him from his people, and his arrogance had blinded him to the needs of the kingdom. In his despair, Adewale remembered his father's advice, that a true king rules with kindness and humility, not pride. With no one else to turn to, he called for a gathering of the people. For the first time, he humbled himself before them and acknowledged his mistakes. "I have failed you," he said, his voice filled with sorrow. "I let my pride guide me, and in doing so, I lost everything. I see now that the true strength of a ruler comes not from wealth or power, but from listening to the people and serving them with a humble heart. I ask for your forgiveness." The people, though wary, saw the sincerity in his eyes. Slowly they began to forgive him. The nobles too returned, recognizing that only through unity could the kingdom be saved. With time, the king worked tirelessly to restore the kingdom, listening to the counsel of his advisors and seeking to meet the needs of the people. Adewale learned the hard way that the price of pride is often steep, but the reward of humility is far greater. His kingdom, though scarred, began to heal, and the king, now wise and humble, ruled with the love and respect of his people for the rest of his days. And so, the story of King Adewale became a lesson passed down through the generations, reminding all who heard it of the dangers of pride and the enduring power of humility.